You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, the latest on the chaos in Kabul and throughout Afghanistan as President Biden addressed the nation on troop movement.
We've got some Tuesday morning rain activity, and now we begin our ascent up on the thermometer into the high 80s. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also warm enough that just about anyone is looking for a chance to get into the pool these days. Thanks for joining us for the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. President Biden says he does not regret his decision to withdraw the military from Afghanistan, even though it allowed the Taliban to reclaim power. The president now faces criticism from those who insist he underestimated how quickly that would happen. Bradley Blackburn has the latest developments from the Middle East.
Despite the chaos unfolding in Afghanistan, President Biden says pulling the military out was the correct decision.
After 20 years, I've learned the hard way that there was never a good time to withdraw U.S. forces.
The president admitted being surprised by the speed of the Taliban takeover, but insisted the U.S. won't be pulled back into the conflict.
American troops cannot and should not be fighting in a war and dying in a war that Afghan forces are not willing to fight for themselves.
On Tuesday, the Taliban began consolidating its control over Kabul. The airport outside the capital was overrun by thousands of Afghan civilians desperate to leave the country. Some tried to climb aboard the outside of this military transport as it was taking off. At least 7 people were killed in the chaos.
What we have seen is an unmitigated disaster, a stain on the reputation of the United States of America.
Republicans and even some Democrats expressed dismay at the return of the Taliban.
I'm going to be asking tough questions about how and why the Taliban triumph was so much speedier than anyone anticipated.
Roughly 6,000 U.S. troops have been deployed to Afghanistan. The Pentagon says their primary mission is to keep the Kabul airport open and to help in the safe evacuation of U.S. allies and civilians. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
U.S. State Department says it met with counterparts from Pakistan, Russia, Britain, the European Union, Turkey, and NATO about ensuring stability in the region. The UN says roughly 18 million people, about half of Afghanistan's population, are in need of humanitarian assistance. It called for the establishment of a new government that is united, inclusive, and representative, including with the full, equal, and meaningful participation of women. 4 states is set to become the home of a new law enforcement training center. The new home will be in Parsons, Kansas. The training center will offer a host of training classes for law enforcement agencies in 16 different counties. It'll be run by the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center. Parsons Police Chief says it will give all of the agencies it serves a central location that's closer so they don't have to travel as far for specialized trainings.
We're bringing, 20, 30, 40 people a day into these training classes as the center ramps up. That's a lot more police vehicles that are inside the city. And I'm sure that some of our nefarious, felonious individuals might also take notice that there's a whole lot more law enforcement in Parsons.
Officials hope to have the center up and running by the end of the year. Commissioners in Ottawa County, Oklahoma consider a $1 million grant for the NEO A&M nursing program. The proposal discussed at yesterday's commissioners meeting would use federal funding known as ARPA funds intended to help communities recover from the pandemic. NEO's president says this funding could create better experiences for nursing students and add more nurses to the 4-state area.
We believe we've got great faculty. We just need modern equipment to help these students learn and with real life experiences and be able to utilize the equipment that's in their workplace of where they'll go when they graduate to have it into the actual classroom.
Set up a committee to figure out exactly how to allocate these funds. Head-on collision kills a man from Ottawa County, Oklahoma. It happened a little after 11 Sunday night on Highway 69A north of Quapaw. Highway Patrol says 43-year-old Miami resident Eisner Maid died when his car was struck head-on by a car that crossed the center line. The driver of that second car, a 17-year-old male from Baxter Springs, was listed in critical condition. The Ottawa County Sheriff's Office says inmates are facing charges following a weekend fire at the jail. The fire happened inside the jail on Saturday, though jail officials would not let us inside to see the damage. They say they're still getting estimates on how much damage was done. No one was hurt in the fire. This latest fire just adds to what's been a busy year for the Sheriff's Office. An April riot led to broken windows and plumbing. And then in May, authorities say a suspect in that riot set a fire in the ceiling of a holding cell. In June, 2 Ottawa County jailers were arrested on charges that they snuck contraband into the jail for an inmate. Sheriff's Office says the investigation into this latest fire is ongoing, but they expect charges for some inmates. Well, things are beginning to wrap up for the summer, but before the Pittsburgh Aquatic Center is drained for the season, it goes to the dogs. Check this site out in Pittsburgh, the 13th annual dog swim at the aquatic park. Several canines enjoyed the chance to cool off in the big pool.
So the dog swim's really awesome for the dogs to come in and socialize, as well as the parents of the dogs to come in and just kind of have fun and exercise. This is the one time during the year that we get to allow the dogs come in and swim.
Once again, this was the 13th year of the Pittsburgh Aquatic Center dog swim.
I didn't want anybody to think that that dog was going down like a 20-foot slide or anything like that. I thought it was going to slide down, and then all of a sudden when the claws started hitting it, he was like, I'm not so sure about this. No, Sarah and her gang out there, they do a marvelous job at Pittsburgh Parks and Rec. We're lucky with our Parks and Recs department for the most part. They do a great job. All right, let's take a live look outside of Television City. The sun trying to break through that cloud cover. It's been mostly cloudy skies, however. There it is over 7th and Range Line, getting a little bit brighter. 72 degrees is where we stand. You'll notice that humidity did increase from yesterday. Yesterday we were down about 65%. Now we've kicked back up to about 87%, and that'll be our trend for this week. It will get a little bit more humid with each and every day. As far as our Tuesday morning rain, I tell you what, it's a big difference from where we were about 2 hours ago. We'll take off the sweeping radar on the satellite, and now we're just really scattered showers up to the central and northern portion of the 4 states. We've seen a lot more in southeast Kansas than we have in southwest Missouri, minus Vernon County, Missouri. That one that made its way out of Fort Scott into Nevada right along Highway 54. That's really been the majority of it. Now down south, now we're starting to pick up some action in Delaware County. Haven't had any lightning with that as of yet, as everything moves from the west off to the east, but once again, you get down here right along I-40, it's coming down at a real good clip. And that's been pretty constant. If you got to jump on I-44, give you an idea what you're going to run into as well if you're headed down Tulsa way, as we don't have any watches or warnings associated with any of this. Well, that's some pretty good Tuesday morning rain right there. 69 in Chanute and Parsons, 70 in Monette. Let's roll 74 right now in Manama and 72 in Nevada. We still got a ways to go though, and by the time we get into the afternoon hours, we are going to have the old heat index come back on us, because look at that dividing line of the humidity. You got to work your way into eastern Colorado right there to find where it gets really dry. You know, we've kind of been spoiled here past couple of days, not had a big difference between the temperature and the heat index. Of course, nationally speaking, you see all the rain in the southeastern portion of the United States as what is now Tropical Depression Fred made landfall yesterday as a tropical storm, with the watches and warnings now spreading from the Gulf Coast all the way up to portions of West Virginia. That's how far the flood warnings are right now, in anticipation of Fred just being able to maintain a lot of that moisture all the way through almost the end of the week. Our temperatures here in the 4 states today, we're going to roll high 80s once again, coming off into 88 degree Monday at Joplin Regional Airport. We'll be right back there. And remember, even if you didn't get any rain this morning, hold on to the umbrella for the afternoon and evening hours all week long.
All right, thanks, Michael. Up next, an uptick of RSV cases in young children. Why you may want to check your freezer after major seafood recall.
Kansas Crossing.
In response to the unusual rise of cases among infants and children of the respiratory virus known as RSV, the American Academy of Pediatrics issues new guidance. The group recommends considering the antibody called palivizumab to treat infants at increased risk of the severe disease. RSV, which is typically seen in the fall and winter, has been on the rise since the spring. If you're a fan of seafood, you may want to take a closer look inside your freezer. Avante Frozen Foods is expanding its previous recall to now include some of its shrimp. The FDA says these products may be contaminated with salmonella. Among the brand names affected by the recall, Chicken of the Sea, Harbor Bank, Sandbar, and Wesley Farms. The potentially tainted items were sold nationally from November of 2020 through May of this year. If you bought these products, you're advised to return them to the place of purchase. More information is available on the FDA's website. A Fletcher, Oklahoma mother is asking the first responder community to come together for her son, who lost his father to COVID-19 last week and is now fighting the virus himself. Reporter Cheyenne Cole talked to her to find out how everyone from firefighters to EMTs are stepping up.
13-year-old Daniel Sprague and his father Jim were quarantined together after testing positive for the coronavirus. On Thursday morning, Daniel woke up to get a drink of water and found his father not breathing.
He knew what to do. He called 911. Paradise Valley Fire, Sheriff's Department, and ambulance all arrived. I heard the call, was woke up by it. I responded as well. Unfortunately, it was too late. His dad was gone.
Huey is also the Deputy Director of Comanche County Emergency Management, but this is one call she never wanted to respond to. Her son lives with high-functioning autism, and his father's death has been difficult for him to process.
The worst part of it is that Daniel is still COVID positive, and he's in isolation away from even us. So at the time of his life where he needs the most support and love, we can't even give it.
Daniel is obsessed with first responders, like his parents, who are his heroes. He hopes to be an EMT, firefighter, and nurse when he grows up. So a family friend decided to organize a drive-by parade of first responders for Daniel. It's happening at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. Already, several agencies have agreed to ride in the parade.
His dad was also a first responder for years. That's a big community. So Lizzie has organized this drive-by that will have all of the first responders in the area driving by in emergency vehicles, offering their love and support to let Daniel know he's not alone. And even though they can't come up and give him big hugs, they can at least show him some support.
She welcomes friends, teachers, and anyone else who knows Daniel to join in and help cheer him up. Even though nothing can replace his father, Huey wants this to give him a glimmer of hope.
He was a wonderful dad. Even though we had our differences and our marriage didn't work after 20 years, I could not have asked for a better dad for my kids, and we co-parented well, and he was spectacular with these kids.
If you'd like to join in on the parade, you can contact Lizzie Woods at 580-704-7132.
Perfect example of the community rallying together right there to help that family, and I just absolutely love that picture of him in the fire truck every time I see that one.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he gets to complete his dream someday and become an EMT or
that's
first
stuff.
responder in some sort.
All right, Tanya, we got plenty of rain down to the south on the Skywatch Storm Tracker, and we've got some in our counties as well. Let's go south to north this time, because we're seeing it pick up there in Ottawa County in northeast Oklahoma. Now, despite the fact that the heaviest rain for the morning was actually through the central portion of the 4 states and then also in Labette County, Kansas, everything just turning into spotty rain showers right now. So we've lost all our lightning, we've lost all our heavy rain, and we're beginning to see little glimpses of sunshine every now and then. There's outside of Television City, and there is 7th and Rangeline. 72 degrees is where we stand right now. We were talking about the humidity that will continue to increase each and every day. You can tell that low pressure system down there by Grove and Miami. That's where you see the little diversion of the arrows. And you see another one. Track I-44 toward Monette right there. You see, arrows aren't barreling in; they are twisting a little bit. That's why we've got some instability up there. Speaking of instability, here's where Tropical Depression Fred now sits. Going to make its way toward Atlanta today, and they already have massive flooding concerns. And on top of that, they also have severe thunderstorm warnings abound. That's the entire Atlanta metro area that we're looking at right there. And a tornado watch now in effect for central Georgia as well. So it gives you an idea that even though it's a tropical depression, still capable of very severe weather. And the watches and warnings actually stretch all the way into southern West Virginia. That's right, from the Gulf Coast all the way to southern West Virginia, as it will continue its track to the north-northeast all the way toward the end of the week. Our weather trend here in the 4 states is going to lift us up into the high 80s later on. Came off an 88-degree day yesterday. Be right back there today. Now, if you didn't get any rain this morning, I still wouldn't go anywhere without the umbrella, because we're going to be the spotty variety for the afternoon and evening hours as it moves in from the south. Be done with most of it tonight, and then as we wake up on Wednesday morning, should see a little less rain early Wednesday morning than what we experienced this morning. 7-day forecast is pretty constant with those temperatures up into the high 80s. Very seasonable for this time of year, not abnormally warm by any means, and overnight lows delightful. We'll take that low to mid 70s, we can get it. But you notice the other constant on the 7-day forecast, that afternoon shot for rain every single day into the weekend. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Yesterday marked the opening day of fall practice for Kansas high school sports. Pittsburgh Dragons hit the field for their first football practice yesterday afternoon, just less than 3 weeks until the season opener. Pittsburgh finished 500 last season, went 5-5 overall. This year, it's a team loaded with seniors. Purple Dragons have 7 starters back on each side of the ball, and all but one of them are seniors. Now, that experience and the run game, that's what Pittsburgh's leaning on this fall.
It's fun watching the older kids start coaching the younger kids. First day of practice, and the older running backs are already showing the young ones, this is what you do on this, and that's fun to see. The kids are understanding it, and it means more to a freshman when a senior's telling him what to do than when a coach is. So it's cool to see how they've matured and taken on that leadership role.
Pittsburgh opens the season on September 3rd. Will do so on the road against Labette County. Frontenac Raiders were also on the field yesterday for their first practice, and like Pittsburgh, the Raiders got some experience back at very key spots. That includes senior quarterback Colin McCartney and big-time players on the defensive line. Seniors Landon Dean, Cruz Blair, and Lane Franklin. Now, Dean and Blair were both first-team All-State selections last season, and that D-line, once again, going to be a bright spot for Frontenac. No doubt, there are some high expectations for the Raiders this season, and they do not have to wait very long to play in a big game. Raiders host Columbus in Week 1. Columbus, a team that beat Frontenac by 19 last season, as the Titans went on to an undefeated regular season.
Oh, it's huge. It shows day 1 practice is important. These first 3 weeks, we got to get in the best shape possible. We got to install as much as we can, get ready for Columbus. We know they're going to be tremendous. They got some great players, great coaches. They gave us the loss last year to start the season, so we're excited to get that opportunity back.
We know we're going to get everybody's best shot, so we just go out every game. No, it's not going to be like a given game, so just go out there, play our best.
Hey, the KOAM Pigskin Preview is now available. Now, we changed things up a little bit this year. It is our first fully digital publication. The landing page, KOAMnewsnow.com/pigskin. When you're there, you're going to see logos for all your teams in the preview from Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma. We got your junior colleges. Of course, we got your universities. And all you got to do is click on the team page. You're going to see all the content you would normally see in the traditional magazine. Got the 2020 review, the returning players, schedules, 2021 outlooks. And get this, at the bottom of each page, whenever our sports department gets highlights from your team this year, those highlights are going to be on that team page. That means you can check back in throughout the year to keep up with your favorite 4-state team. Special shout out to Jacob Leonard, Ms. Terzer, our wonderful production team and our wonderful sales team for putting together this year's digital issue of the Pigskin Preview. We'll be right back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
The 4-state hero, Specialist Christopher Walker, joined the U.S. Army in 2008. The Galena, Kansas native fought in Operation Iraqi Freedom. We are proud to salute Christopher Walker, this morning's 4-state hero. Nursing shortages are an ongoing problem for the 4 states, but one Ottawa County Commissioner wants the county to team up with an area college to fix it. KOAM's Bronte Saratsky has how a proposed donation to INEO's nursing program could bring more nurses not only to Ottawa County, but to the entire region.
Nursing shortages have been ongoing in the 4 states for a while now.
Joplin's definitely unique
It's a market where, especially in the med-surg areas, you really are dependent on new nurse graduates being part of your hiring pipelines.
Which is why Ottawa County Commissioner Stephen Chastain made a motion at Monday's Commissioner meeting to allocate $1 million of pandemic relief funds to NEO's nursing program.
Due to the coronavirus funds out of the Washington, D.C. is the only reason we have this opportunity. So it's really a historical thing, the motion that we put up, especially $1 million donation motion.
NEO's nursing program is known to add more nurses to not only Ottawa County, but Joplin and Pittsburgh as well. Nursing student Jack Martin says he's already seen nursing shortages impact the area.
This summer I started working at Freeman Health System, and there has been a massive shortage of nurses. Many of them are working 7 days a week. So yeah, I absolutely do see a shortage.
Martin hopes this donation, if approved, could incentivize more students to join the program, bringing more nurses to the 4 states.
I think if they hear that there's new facilities in place, then students will definitely maybe come have a look at NEO.
NEO's president adds that this donation could also allow more real-life experiences for students they may not otherwise get in the classroom.
The nursing program allows up to 30% of their clinicals to take place in simulation labs, and so simulators, birthing simulators, there's lots of different type of simulation labs that we could utilize. Some of ours that we have are out of date.
Ultimately, the donation, if approved, would create better experiences for nursing students, adding quality nurses in an area that needs them. In Miami, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
Ottawa County Commissioners will meet again next Monday to discuss their plans for this money. Another half hour of news and weather is just ahead. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Class is back in session, but one city is facing a major shortage of making sure the kids even get to school, and why one store is going all out with a national hiring week. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be right back.
Down 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently about 7:31. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Parsons, Kansas is chosen to be the home to a new law enforcement training center. The training center will offer a host of training classes for law enforcement agencies in 16 counties. The Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center will run it. The Parsons police chief says it'll give all of the agencies it serves a central location that's closer, so they don't have to travel as far for specialized trainings. That means more officers in town, which can mean more money for the community. Parsons police chief says it could mean something else for residents: increased safety. The Arvest Foundation yesterday delivered a life-saving donation to the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office, $10,000 that'll be used to buy new body armor for the deputies. The Sheriff's Office says deputies were using old vests that might not have provided the same level of protection. Oklahoma's health commissioner says an emergency rule approved by Governor Kevin Stitt will allow Oklahoma hospitals to expand areas for treating COVID-19 patients. The rule allows the use of areas such as conference rooms for patient rooms, but is not an emergency order that would allow schools to issue mask mandates. The Ottawa County Sheriff's Office says inmates are facing charges following a weekend fire at the jail. The fire happened inside the jail Saturday, though jail officials would not let us inside to see the damage. They say they're still getting estimates on how much damage was done. No one was hurt in the fire. This latest fire just adds to what's been a busy year for the Sheriff's Office. An April riot led to broken windows and plumbing. Then in May, authorities say a suspect in that riot set a fire in the ceiling of a holding cell. And in June, 2 Ottawa County jailers were arrested on charges that they snuck contraband into the jail for an inmate. Sheriff's Office says the investigation into this latest fire is ongoing, but they expect charges for some inmates. The Virginia Crossland Early Childhood Center officially opened its doors in Columbus, Kansas yesterday. The center occupies a previously unoccupied building that was empty for more than 20 years. The center will operate Monday through Friday and has 4 infant-toddler classrooms with capacity for 32 children. There's also 2 full-day, full-year preschool classrooms. Well, if you've visited the Jasper County Courthouse in Carthage over the past year or so, you're fully aware that it's been under some renovation. Good news, The renovation is finished. A ribbon cutting celebrated the completion yesterday. Courthouse had some slight cosmetic modifications on the first floor, but up on the second and third floors, things got a little more extensive. Flooring came up, ceiling tiles came out, and the whole thing was rewired, all while crews were tasked with maintaining the courthouse's historic appeal, which officials say was one of the most important parts of the project.
They've been working on that thing a while now, but I'm so glad that they got a chance to preserve it. I've always been amazed at that, at how beautiful that building is from the exterior. I'm glad they're able to keep it up on the inside as well.
All right.
Infrastructure. Tanya, let's roll through the Skywatch Storm Tracker. We'll start with the old contiguous 48 and bebop around here because we've got good amounts of rain down to our south. Now, we're seeing a little bit of it intrude upon our counties, especially Delaware and Ottawa County right there on I-44. And then we're starting to push over into McDonald County as it works its way just from the south in northwest Arkansas. Everything that we had earlier that ranged from Fort Scott to Nevada, had a little bit from Mound Valley to Parsons. That's now a thing of the past, even though we saw some good heavy rain here way pre-sunrise. It just broke up. Now let's go down to the southeastern portion of the United States and check on what is Tropical Depression Fred, as it is making a beeline for Atlanta right now. And we've got watches and warnings abound, whether it be flooding concerns that still persist along the Gulf. And now we've got tornado warnings and watches for the Atlanta metro area. As a matter of fact, all that yellow area is what that indicates. That is widespread. And it gives you an idea that just because it may not be a tropical storm anymore does not mean it's not capable of producing severe weather. As we transition to Television City, we're off to a quiet start, and there we are over 7th and Rangeline, sitting at 72 degrees on a Tuesday morning, 73 in Pittsburgh, 74 in Miami, and we'll roll 72 in Carthage, home of the renovated courthouse. It's going to be a little bit more humid each and every day this week, and so we will see a little bit of a differential between our temperature and what it feels like for the afternoon. Yesterday got up to about 88 at Joplin Regional Airport. Be right there again today. Probably feeling though about like 92, 93 this afternoon. Now we're also, with that humidity and the Gulf moisture, going to pick up scattered afternoon and evening rains. I just keep the umbrella handy with you all week long because by the time we get to the forecast, you'll see that the rain wants to persist. Also persisting, temperatures in the high 80s, but at the same point in time, that is perfectly seasonable for this time of year. Nothing abnormally hot until you look at the far right-hand side. Looks like next week's going to present us with another round of some mid to late August heat. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Should people who are incarcerated be referred to inmates or residents? Well, that's the subject of this morning's Something to Talk About on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. There's a county prison in Wisconsin that's going to stop calling people inmates and refer to them as residents. Naomi Cowles explains the goal of the language change.
How one views themselves matters.
Dane County Sheriff Calvin Barrett says the shift from inmate to resident is a policy change that sheriffs around the country are already doing.
This proactive approach to our criminal justice reform is going to allow us to help move towards a 21st century policing mindset in which we treat everyone within our community with dignity, respect, and humanity.
He says it's part of an evolving set of policies designed to humanize and respect the jail population.
So changing the name of inmate to residents give people a sense of belonging.
State Representative and Dane County Supervisor Sheila Stubbs says this is a shift she supports dating back to her own time as a parole officer.
When we give them a place of belonging and we call them residents instead of an inmate, or call them resident instead of offender, because they may have offended one person, but doesn't mean they've offended everyone.
Language is important to the new sheriff. For example, the term peace officer. The Dane County Sheriff's website was updated to read, quote, the largest peace officer agency in Dane County. That's a change from, quote, the largest law enforcement organization in Dane County. I found that on an archived website version from April under Dave Mahoney's tenure.
As a sheriff, are working towards ensuring that everyone in our care is in a facility and in an environment that is treating them with dignity, humanity, and respect.
Just happened to be Sheriff Calvin Barrett's 100th day on the job when he made that decision. Now, our question to you, should people incarcerated be referred to as inmates or residents? It's been pretty overwhelming all morning long. Right now, 96% coming in and say, nah, let's just keep it the old way as inmates. You can make your voice heard each and every morning. All you have to do is go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote or connect to us via the KOAM News Now Facebook page. We'll be right back with Consumer Watch right after this.
There has been a historic jump in food stamp benefits for millions of Americans who rely on them. The Biden administration has announced an increase of more than 25% above pre-pandemic levels, the largest jump in the program's history. And as Stacey Cohen reports, the boost comes as a temporary increase of 15% was set to expire at the end of the month.
A major boost for struggling families. Food stamp benefits are jumping 27% above pre-pandemic levels, the largest increase in the program's history. For food stamp recipients, the program has been a lifeline.
It was, life or death. We were either going to starve or we were lucky enough to qualify for SNAP benefits.
The Department of Agriculture, which oversees the program, made the announcement Monday. The agency says under the permanent revision, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, the formal name for food stamps, would add an average of $36 per month per person. Beneficiaries received $121 per person before the coronavirus pandemic. The USDA says their priority is making sure their resources are reaching those who need it most.
Making sure that we are meeting the needs of families with very young children. That is just critically important for today and our future.
The economic impact of the pandemic sparked a jump in food stamp participation as hunger grew nationwide. The USDA says about 42 million people were enrolled in the program in May, up from nearly 37 million in February 2020. Those who rely on federal assistance say the extra help has gone a long way to helping them put food on the table, especially with inflation and rising cost of groceries.
I am a real person who had a real job, and now I need help so that I can provide for my children during this hard time.
I'm Stacey Cohen reporting.
The increase takes effect in October. Today's changes stem from an update to the Thrifty Food Plan, which determines benefit amounts. The plan estimates the cost of groceries needed to provide a budget-conscious diet for a family of 4. T-Mobile confirms reports that the wireless company had been hit by a data breach, but it won't say how widespread the damage may be. In an underground forum yesterday, hackers claimed to have stolen full customer information from 100 million subscribers. T-Mobile says it's working with the highest degree of urgency and has closed the vulnerability hackers used to get into its servers. But the telecommunications company has not determined that any customer's personal data was actually stolen. T-Mobile says it'll update customers once its investigation is complete. Aldi is getting ready for the holiday season with a big hiring event. Today, the discount supermarket chain announces it's hosting a national hiring week in September. Aldi says it's looking for more than 20,000 workers to fill a variety of positions, including store associates, cashiers, stockers, and warehouse associates. To lure applicants, Aldi's is raising workers' wages. It says store and warehouse positions will now get $15 and $19 an hour, respectively. The increases will be based on market and position. Aldi's National Hiring Week runs from September 20th through the 24th. We'll be right back with more after this, but first let's take a look at the market prices before the opening bell.
We got school already in session for several 4-state schools, and in 1 week, just out to our west, students in Denver, Colorado, the public school system, they return to the classroom. Here's the problem. Getting there may be a little hard for some kids as the district is short on bus drivers. Now, it's not uncommon for schools to be down a few drivers at the start of a new year, but the Denver public school system is short about 50 drivers. Say that's the worst the district's transportation department has seen in years.
As Denver kids get ready for their first day of school, Denver Public Schools is working overtime to hire bus drivers to get students to class.
It's an ongoing challenge, but a challenge that's getting worse.
While it's not unusual for DPS to be short around 20 or so drivers at the start of the year, this year it's down at least 50 drivers.
In an ideal world, I think we'd like to be, probably 80 to 90 drivers over where we are right now.
The district is offering hiring incentives and considering increasing driver wages. There's concern, however, the city's vaccine mandate for DPS employees could make it even tougher to fill those open seats.
On the other side, to the extent that the vaccines mean that our drivers are able to keep coming to work every day, then that helps us deliver our services in a more consistent way.
DPS is not alone in this dilemma. Last month, Jeffco Schools told us their driver shortage will take some bus routes temporarily off the map.
Buses are not going to pass through some of those areas that they usually do.
So far, Denver does not need to cut back on service, and it plans to keep it that way.
Our goal is to not reduce services, and we are going to do everything possible to be in that place.
Thought maybe we get some perfect timing from the tower cam at 7th and Range Line, maybe get a school bus that would come by. Of course, that'd be if live TV worked as exactly as you planned, right? And where's the fun in that? We are off to a nice calm start there at the intersection of 7th and Range Line in Joplin. Tell you what, look at this. There we go. Now we're seeing some blue sky out there. I knew it would just be a matter of time after what was kind of an overcast start to our day. And as far as the rain, the early morning rain that we had for the central portion of the 4 states, if you slept through it, you didn't miss anything. We did have some pockets of heavy rain at time pre-sunrise, along with a little lightning to go with it as well. But for the most part, yes, done and done. A little bit of light rain shower there along I-44 from Monette out to Springfield. Hardest rain we're seeing come down right now is northwest Arkansas, making its way across the state line into McDonald County. And then we've also got some additional rainfall from Ottawa County into Delaware County for northeast Oklahoma. There we are outside of Television City. Looks like at the very top of your screen, we're beginning to try to break that up as well. Let's go back, talk about our current conditions. 72 degrees is where we stand in Joplin right now. Humidity is going to increase all week long. We range anywhere from, looks like Iola is our low point there at 67, all the way up to 74 in both Miami and in Grove, 72 in Carthage. Look at those wheels spinning down there at the bottom of the screen where some of that rain is coming in right through eastern Oklahoma into western Arkansas. That idea, that's a little low pressure system right there, but once again our wind only about 5 to 10 miles per hour this morning, so more of an interesting pattern than it is actually playing havoc with anything. There's our relative humidity, so it's going to be a little bit sticky this afternoon. Luckily, not as what it will be in the deep south, where tropical depression Fred is making its way right toward Atlanta for this afternoon. Made landfall on the Florida Panhandle yesterday. Watches and warnings abound, stretching from the Gulf to West Virginia. And you can see for Atlanta Metro, we're talking about tornado warnings, flood warnings, the entire 9. So that's one thing that we'll watch this week. And we'll also be watching what is now Tropical Storm Grace. Was a low pressure system yesterday when we checked on it. Going to skirt the southern edge of Cuba and then make its way toward the Yucatan Peninsula. Our weather trend today is going to put us up into the mid to high 80s. Came off an 88-degree day yesterday. Here's why I'd go ahead and keep the umbrella, even with some blue sky that's beginning to emerge for this afternoon and evening. Got some rain that's going to pop up from the south, a result of that additional humidity, as our temperatures just won't ride high 80s all the way into the weekend. We'll be back. Wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
What's the most valuable sports card of all time? A baseball card for Pittsburgh Pirates Hall of Famer Honus Wagner. That sold last night for $6.6 million. The card was produced from 1909 to 1911 by the American Tobacco Company. According to legend, Wagner prohibited production of the card to continue because he didn't want children buying cigarette packs to get his card.
It's a really interesting story because obviously several of them were made, and Honus Wagner used tobacco himself. But because he fancied himself a role model, he didn't want kids associating him with the fact that he used tobacco, and so he actually sent the company a cease and desist letter when they started using his likeness, and that's why it's such a rarity of a card. because once they got the cease and desist letter, they're like, oh, we
Gotta
can't
stop.
make any more.
And then they became valuable.
Broke the record previously held by, well, one was a LeBron James card, and the other one, little hometown Florida State flavor.
Mickey Mantle, yeah.
Bingo, Mick. All right, I want to thank you all for letting us put the good in your morning. We'll be back with more news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.